So continuing on in the series, going through the Texas promulgated 1 through 4 residential contract. We've done pages 1 through 5. We've also done the information about brokerage services, and we've done those in other videos, so you can grab those. Starting out on page 6, which page 6 is actually my favorite page in the contract because there's not a single spot in here for us to deal with. It's what has been approved by the State of Texas Real Estate Commission. We just skip past that other than when we're explaining it to a client. Nothing to fill out. So page 7, a couple of things on here that are really important. One is when you get to notices, paragraph 21. This is really, really important. I see this blank a lot of times on a lot of contracts. This is required to have contact information in this spot. Let's say that there's a termination notice that needs to be sent out. Let's say that there's some sort of information that the other party is required to, according to the contract, required to be notified about. Where do you send it? Okay. A lot of people think, a lot of agents and consumers think that, oh, you just send it to the other agent. That's not correct. Now, they can be copied on it, and doesn't mean if you get it to that agent, it doesn't get to that. But according to the contract, there needs to be official contact info here. It can be an email address, it can be a mailing address, it can be, phone number, whatever, but there needs to be information here to reach out. It really should be some way to transmit a document. It can be fax, if anybody still has that. Somebody told me recently, they said, Rodney, faxes don't work where I live. I said, really, where do you live? They said in 2020, the year 2020, so I don't know. But maybe an email address. The phone number is really just for contact to say, hey, I need to send you a document. Where do I send it? But it's better to have that there, so make sure you get that. The rest of this, paragraph 22, this is a list that you are including all the other addenda that goes along and is attached to this contract. If it's not checked in these boxes, even we have an other down here, if it's not there, it's not part of the contract. It's not attached to this contract. So you need to make sure that that is in there, or it's added in through an addendum. You can always add in, if there's another document necessary later, you can add that in through an addendum. But if it's not on here, it's not part of the contract. So make sure that you're getting all the right addenda attached and written into the contract. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to go to page 8. So this is a really interesting piece of the puzzle for me. Paragraph 23 on page 8 has to do with a termination option. In the state of Texas, the broker-lawyer committee decided that the seller has an unfair advantage because they have information about the home that the buyer does not. Okay, in a lot of states, people will go out and they'll do inspections before they submit a contract on the house. So they'll do that, and in Texas, though, it's done a different way. You go out, you negotiate the contract, you get the contract executed, and then most times part of the agreement is that there's a due diligence period, it's called an option period, for the buyer to come in, bring their inspectors, check out the house, do everything. Now the only way that an option is valid is through an exchange. That exchange is money. Basically the buyer says, I'll give you X amount of dollars to let me have the house off the market to do all of these inspections, and then if I find something I don't like during that period of time, 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, whatever you've negotiated, whatever the parties agree on, during that period of time, I can opt out. The buyer can opt out. Now the seller is tied in. They don't have an option period. They can't opt out. If someone else comes along and says, I'll pay you this much cash for your house, you can't kick the other guy out unless there's some other conditions to the contract. But this option period is for the buyer only. There's a couple of things to take into consideration. I don't care which side you're working with, if you're working with the buyer or the seller. Number one is, what's the amount? You want a seller who's selling a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $800,000 house, if you're the buyer's agent, or the buyer. You want the seller to take their house off of the market, and you say, hey, I tell you what, I'll give you $100, you take it off the market. If for any reason whatsoever during 7 days, 8 days, 10 days, whatever is agreed upon, any reason whatsoever, I wake up and I decide we don't want that house anymore, I can cancel. Is that okay? Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, it really doesn't sound right. But there needs to be a period of time. So, as a listing agent, I always want a larger number there and a shorter period of time. I want, at least my client to have enough to go out to dinner on $250, $300, something. I've actually recommended to clients before when I've worked with them on the buying side. We've gone in a shortage of inventory market to win the deal, and we've gone in and we've done a $1,500 option period before, or option fee for a 7-day option period. And we pulled that money away from the earnest money. Now, if the buyer did not decide to move forward, they would have forfeited that money. Earnest money comes back, but option money does not, the seller. But that seller was so excited about being able to put that cash in their pocket no matter what, that my client won the deal. And that was what it was about. They got a fair deal on the house, especially in the market conditions that it was. So it worked out well. Sometimes it's just about winning the deal. But make sure if you're the seller, if you're the seller's agent, that you're making sure that you've got enough to feel comfortable having taken the house off the market for that period of time. Everybody's going to want a period to do inspections. Everybody's going to want that because they don't know the house. But what are the numbers that go in? That's something that's definitely negotiable. Below that's paragraph 24. This is the rule, the thing that says consult an attorney before signing. It's your choice, right? You know, as an agent, you need to let them know. As a buyer or a seller, it's your choice. You want to take the contract before signing it to an attorney. We definitely recommend that you do that. If you're comfortable with it, if you have some knowledge, that's great too. Either way, if you are going to put it in front of your attorney, this is where this goes, right here. So, you know, if you're the agent, this is where your client's attorney information goes there. All right, so a couple of things. The way this contract changes from an offer to an actual executed contract is once everybody has signed, both parties have signed because they've agreed to all the conditions that are written herein. This date is added by the last agent who's touched this. Okay, so you know if the buyer sent over this contract document as an offer, then the seller's accepted and signed it. Usually it's the listing agent who puts the date in. Then the contract has to be presented back to the other party for it to be official. So everything can be signed and dated, but if you as the agent, if you have not notified and given the other agent a copy and a phone call or a text, you must send it to them and notify them that you've sent it to them. Until you do that, it's not actually a valid enforceable contract. So that's our quick little review of running through the main pages. Of course, on page 9 is just some information. Well, it's got the agent's information here. You're going to want to make sure that's filled out correctly. And page 10, which is new, a couple of years ago they added this in. This is our receipt page. We have a whole page for receipt because there's some rules about when things have to be turned in. We'll talk about that in another video. All right, I hope this helped. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Click on any other videos that are on here. And hey, you know, go out, fill out some contracts. There's only 2 ways we get paid in real estate if you're the agent. And one of those is to set an appointment. The other one is to get a signature. So go out, let's make it happen. Any way I can help, let me know.